All right. Hello, everybody. For any returning listeners, thank you for coming back and listening again. For anyone whose first time this is, hello, my name is Hardiel Pinto, and I run a small distribution company called Pulp Serial, where I distribute movie serials. And this is my little audio show, one on one, where I basically take people I admire on social media and I force them to be my friend for a half an hour. This week, I have somebody who's been basically following me since the beginning. I have Lolo from Lololovesfilms.
Hi, how are
Hi.
you?
Well, I mean, for the audience, yes, that's a very relative question, but obviously, you know how I am. Because for all of you who don't know, obviously, because we just started recording, we've had some technical difficulties. So this episode will be a little shorter than the other ones.
I talk fast.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. We'll make up the time, and then also, uh, if you've heard previous episodes, you probably know that I rent office space and I record these in like a meeting room, and the person who was in here before me kind of didn't want to leave, so well, like I said, it's gonna be a little shorter, but it'll still be good.
It will. I'm excited to talk to you. I feel like we've talked so much on social media that it's nice to actually, put a voice to the name and have a conversation with you. I love this. Thank you for having me.
Of course, definitely. When I decided to fall ass backwards into interviewing people, I definitely wanted you to be one of them.
Well, thank you.
Because, like, I mean, this was never a plan. Like, I wanted to interview Fritzy Kramer from Movie Silently, and so we had planned on doing that. We had talked about that for like a month or two, and then I did it, and I'm like, this is great. I want to keep doing this. And then obviously, I had become a patron of Lucy from Lucy Goes to Hollywood, and she was like, "How do you want to collaborate?" I'm like, "Want to do an interview?" You know, and she was just like, "Yeah." So then I don't know, like, it's like I said, I fell ass backwards into it, and so I'm just doing this regularly now.
I mean, that's really the only way you learn is to just kind of, like you said, fall ass backwards into it and try what works and get rid of what doesn't. And I think this really works for you. I think you have a great style, how it's just open and you talk to people and you're never like pushy or rude. You don't interrupt people. You give your opinion, they give theirs. It's great.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I like I said, I hope I'm doing a good job because obviously this is my first time ever really doing anything like this. And interviewing is definitely one of those things where like you don't know how hard it is until you try it yourself.
Oh
But
yeah.
when you're watching like a talk show like The Tonight Show or like Colbert or something, like they always make it seem so easy.
That's true. It really is, unless you're Jimmy Fallon and you just laugh your way through the whole thing. So
Oh my, I yeah, no, I have thoughts on him. I'm not really I'm not his biggest fan. I don't hate him, but like there are other people I'd rather have host the Tonight Show.
I'm a Conan O'Brien kind of gal. My
Oh yeah, no,
allegiances, yeah, fall with him.
he's my number one. He's always been my number one.
Me too. I love Coco.
Did you ever watch the documentary Conan O'Brien Can't Stop?
I think we did right when it came out. I don't think we saw it in like a theater situation. I think we rented it at some point, but I remember it being really good. But it's been years since I've seen it.
Yeah, it was the same with me. I had watched it when it came out, but I think I had rented it or I watched it I think when they had it on Netflix or something, some streaming service like that briefly. And that movie is like 8 years old. It's kind of hard to believe.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know
I
because
can't,
I
man.
yeah, because I my sister had never seen it, and she's the one that introduced me to Conan O'Brien. So was it last month? Yeah, last month after I got back from Malton Fest, we sat down together one afternoon and watched it, and it was really different watching it now than it was originally.
I think he's kind of found his groove on TBS. Like at first, he didn't seem so sure of himself. He's always had that self deprecating kind of humor, but it was more pointed, obviously, towards Jay Leno and all of the shenanigans that NBC put him through. And he was really bitter for a long time, but it seems to have subsided since then.
Exactly. I mean, because it's funny. Like I think when that came out, I had like just graduated high school, so I didn't really have much like life experience or whatnot. So I remember like certain parts of that movie. I'm like, wow, he's really mean person. I can't believe it. But like watching it again 8 years later, I'm like, oh no, he's just having a nervous breakdown. This is normal.
Oh yeah. I mean, they treated him like garbage. I mean, I watched his version of the Tonight Show and it was just it was good. There was room for improvement, but Jay just totally. Mm.
Yeah, no, that was just that was a weird situation altogether because they had tried putting Jay Leno at 10 o'clock and they literally canceled 5 nights of programming just to put him there,
Right.
including literally my favorite show of all time, Southland. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
I don't think so.
Okay,
I've seen
because
Southland Tales.
oh no, no, this is very different. This is starring Ben McKenzie and Regina King and
Oh,
Michael Cudlitz.
I have not seen it, but
Yeah,
I love Regina King.
it's on Hulu. Yeah, this is how I fell in love with her originally. I would highly recommend it. It is my literally my favorite show of all time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, easily. I remember seeing the pilot back in, like I said, it was premiered in 2009, so I was like a senior in high school or something like that. And I remember just watching it and being blown away.
You're so young.
I know. I'm not that, I mean, I'm 27 now. I mean, that does sound young because I'm talking about, high school in the 2000s, but I don't think I'm that young.
So far away from me. A whole 6 years. No.
Oh, you are cruel.
Well, sometimes when you are on film Twitter and you see 16-year-olds talking about how Nicholas Winding Refn is the best director of all time, you know, you're like, okay, 16, I knew nothing at 16. And then I realized that I'm one of the older people on film Twitter. It's kind of sad and humbling at the same time.
Oh no, I fully understand that. 'Cause it is weird seeing like teenagers talk about stuff on there and then think of how I used to talk about film. Because I got into film, like seriously into film. I think, yeah, again, like 2009. I think I was like either a junior or senior in high school at that point. And I definitely had like a film bro mentality. Like I was like Tarantino and Christopher Nolan are the best directors ever.
And to be fair, they're great, but there's a whole wide world apart from Tarantino and Nolan. If only you
Exact,
dig a little farther.
exactly. I mean, luckily, I something I really enjoy is I don't just like the things I like. I love to learn where they originally came from and the
Yeah.
history of things. And even like before I was in the film, I was really into video games.
Oh, cool.
But the more I think about it, like, because my brother played games way more than I did. Even now, he still plays them way more than I do. And it's funny when I think back to that, I wasn't technically into video games, I was into the culture of them because there was this documentary series on G4 called Icons. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I have not.
Basically, they're like half an hour little documentaries about like different games or different studios or different people that worked in there. And I was utterly fascinated with watching it. And what I didn't realize at the time, I thought I loved watching it, which means I have a love for video games. But I didn't realize I love watching it because I have a love for documentary filmmaking.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. I think there's nothing better than a good documentary, which not only informs, but kind of changes your perception of something. Even if you feel one way about something and you're watching a documentary, let's just say for politics purposes, if you're a Democrat and you watch a Republican leaning documentary, I mean, you might actually learn something if you're willing to open your mind enough to see the other perspective or see where things formulated, ideas and such. And that makes sense to me. Totally. Documentaries are great. I love documentaries.
Yes, I mean, again, kind of like reading. Like I don't do it enough though. I still like I do enjoy documentaries, but I just don't watch them enough. Like I think the most I watch them is at a Santa Cruz Film Festival because they usually have like I want to say 70 to 80% of what they show there are documentaries.
Wow. Yeah, the San Diego Film Festival does show a lot of documentaries as well. Maybe that's just film festivals in general. You always hear about the big ones, of course, Cannes and Toronto and Sundance, but not too often do you hear about all the documentary stuff that plays there. And there's a lot of stuff out there. Just look at Netflix. I mean, it seems like every week there's a new documentary on their services.
Yeah, it makes me kind of sad too because again, whenever I do watch a documentary I fall in love with, it always makes me kind of sad because like documentaries are really kind of pushed to the sideline. I mean, how often do you really see a documentary in the top 10 in the box office at all?
I mean, apart from last year was sort of a fluke year where documentaries made this insane resurgence with RBG and Won't You Be My Neighbor and Three Identical Strangers. They all made quite a substantial amount of money for documentaries, but yeah, no way did they ever. or I should say frequently get their way into the top 10, very rarely into the top 5.
Yeah.
Kind of
Um,
sad.
it is because it is really an important art form. And honestly, if I would ever pick a camera to direct anything, it probably would be a documentary.
What do you think it would be about? Wait, tell me your plans. No, don't trump anything, but just tell me your plans.
Well, okay, I do because again, when I first got into the film, I always thought I was gonna direct, and I always thought it would be narrative films because I do love writing, but honestly, like fiction writing isn't my strength. Like I in high school, like I always got like A's and B's on essays and stuff, and I do love writing articles.
That's
So
cool. That's cool.
yeah, so I mean, because basically what I'm saying is like over the years, I have discovered that nonfiction is really my place. Like I said, like that's probably why I would pick documentaries because I feel like that's more my strength than fiction.
I mean, there's always a need for documentarians and nonfiction writing. And if you've formulated that about yourself already, if you know this isn't my strong suit, then you can move elsewhere and kind of experiment there. I think that's cool.
Yeah. Do you know Griffin Hammond at all?
I do not. I feel like everything, I don't know anything.
Oh, it's okay. Basically, when I first started really getting into film, a YouTube channel I watched a lot was Indie Mogul, and they just had a resurgence. He's been one of the guys who's like come in and out of like hosting and whatnot. Like he's been there here and there, and he's a documentarian. He made a wonderful 30-minute documentary called Sriracha about the hot sauce, which is again one of my favorite documentaries of all time. And he talks. I love how he talks about how when he went to film school, like one of his teachers was like, "Okay, how many of you want to be directors?" And like everybody raised their hand. And the teacher's like, "Well, not everyone can be a director. Like, not all of you can be. Like, you have to kind of figure out what else you want to do. Like, you can be an editor, you can be a cinematographer, because filmmaking takes a lot of different people doing a lot of different things."
Right. And I mean, I think that's the natural inclination when you do film school or take film classes. The directing is the pinnacle. But you're right. Not everybody gets to be that upper echelon directors. And a lot of people have to claw their way to the top. We've seen that, throughout the last couple decades, several decades of Hollywood, where women and minorities have consistently not been getting jobs or being passed over for white men. And I'm glad things are changing slowly, but like, let's hurry it up because we need fresh perspectives because this year has just been garbage.
I mean, there are bright spots. Like I said, like I pinned it on my Twitter account. I have a thread going now of movies I've seen in the theater directed by women, and then I just like put like a little GIF to represent that. And I've seen 4, which I know isn't a lot, but I mean that's more than nothing.
The year is young.
Yeah, I mean we still have half the year left. Um, was Late Night directed by? I know
It
that Mindy
was.
Kaling wrote it. Okay, so it was directed by a woman as well.
It
Okay,
was.
because that I know that's playing literally down the street. So I've heard mixed things about that, but that I don't. But that could be the next one.
I had also heard mixed things about it, and then we saw it, and my husband and I both absolutely loved it. I thought it was very urgent and very necessary, sharply written, and I don't know if it's for everybody because it does play onto that notion that Mindy Kaling's character is seen as a quote diversity hire because she came from a chemical plant and didn't have experience, and they thought, oh, well, she just got hired because she's an Indian woman on this late night talk show and she kind of has to prove herself. It's just very reminiscent of all the stories that have come out in the last couple of years. And I think she hit the nail on the head with it. Seriously. If it's sticking around into next week, I highly recommend you see it.
Okay, I mean
It's
I
one of my
probably will.
favorites.
Like I always plan on watching it this year because I saw the trailer and I'm like, there's enough people that I like in there that I'm willing to support it. I just wasn't sure if I was going to make it a theatrical experience or a rental.
That makes sense. I mean, movies are expensive now. I feel like everybody says that, but it's true. And if you can get yourself into a program like AMC A List or Movie Pass, which rest in peace kind of at this point, but I'm still real bitter about Movie Pass.
Oh no, I fully understand. I wish I could do AMC A-list, but our closest AMC is like over the hill in San Jose, so it's like a 45-minute drive.
No. Oh
Yeah,
man.
we only have Regal around here, Cinelux, which is a small chain only in Northern California, and then we have the Landmark Cinemas, which are these little two in well, they used to be independent theaters. I don't think I can call them independent anymore, because they used to be owned by like this married couple, if I remember correctly, that bought both of them, and then they, for whatever reason, they had to sell, and they're a part of like a 50 movie theater chain owned by Mark Cuban right now.
Mark Cuban, yeah, we have a landmark in Hillcrest actually, and it's until we were not able to go there anymore because of MoviePass, because their tickets are kind of expensive. But with MoviePass, we could go for free basically. That's my favorite theater, the Landmark Hillcrest. If you're ever in San Diego, it is truly an independent movie theater where they don't play Avengers or Child's Play. They only play like, Red Joan and all these independent movies. It's great, and everybody there feels like a person who wants to be there. It doesn't feel like an obligation for them. They're really excited about cinema, at least from the people I've talked to that work there. So it's cool when people are passionate about movies. I love that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's basically the vibe that I get from the theaters down here, definitely. So at least Landmark seemed to like seek out these kind of really small theaters that had like a lot of enthusiasm behind them.
Although, keep your ear to the ground about the new Regal Unlimited plan. Supposedly, it's supposed to come out soon. So,
That
just
would
like AMC A List.
that would be good because Regal is the most expensive one around here. Because at least Landmark and Cinelux are a little cheaper,
Yeah.
but like Regal for a matinee now is 1051, which is ridiculous to me.
Oh, it hurts. No,
And
really?
and then yeah, and then an evening
Oh,
screening is like 13 something.
ooh.
Yeah. So that's definitely the most expensive one. So it's not my favorite theater to go to.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking a lot about how we think within our lifetime, probably towards the end of our lifetime, but we think the theater is going to be obsolete at some point. It just seems like with streaming, and now I don't know if you heard, but The Office is going to come off Netflix because NBC is creating their own streaming platform. You've got Disney Plus coming out at the end of this year. I just think that's where it's going. And it's sad to hear that, but if you can't afford to go in the theater and people are on their phones the whole movie and chewing popcorn loudly and bringing their kids to Deadpool, it's kind of makes sense that we're in a predicament here. I would hate to see theaters die, but it seems like it's everything points to that's going to happen soon.
I actually disagree. I know a lot of people have been talking about this in a similar way, but I disagree with that because you got to remember, drive-in theaters are thought to be dead. Yet we still have over 300 of those here in the United States. I mean, they're still sticking around. They're still clawing to be alive. And I think theaters are going to be a similar way. We might not have as many, but I don't think they would ever die out altogether.
I hope you're right because I mean, I don't want theater chains to die at all. I think there's something magical about going to experience like opening day Avengers. I mean, that was an experience I'll never forget because it was a silent theater. Nobody had food. Nobody was on their phones. People were clapping. You could openly hear people weeping. It was such a collective experience that it's not one I'm going to forget anytime soon. Standing ovation at the end of it. It's like, come on, you can't experience that in your home because I hope there's no strangers in your house, but yeah, I don't know.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, even though everyone's like, well, Netflix is destroying the theater business, the funny thing is, one of the best theater experiences I had was when I went to go see Roma in theaters, and I saw it twice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they did the original run around here. They had it down here at the Nickelodeon, which was a part of the 600 theater run, which I feel like is a good amount. Like a lot of people are giving like Netflix crap right now for not doing a big enough theater push for their award season movies, but I feel like 600 theaters is a pretty good amount, and it was there for like a month the first run.
That's good. I mean, personally would love to see it up to 1,000 theaters, maybe go into a little bit more rural areas where people aren't exactly exposed to the cultural impact of something like Roma, especially. And I also think that, they dumped a lot of money into getting that to where it was. Why not do the same for Adam Sandler's murder mystery? No, I'm just kidding.
I've actually heard good things about that. I'm looking forward to watching that.
You know what? I've given Adam Sandler a lot of flack over the last decade, and I enjoyed myself watching Murder Mystery. You know what? It's not the best, but it's easily his best in the last, I don't know, almost decade. He has not made a good movie, in my opinion, in a long time, barring the animated films. Like the Hotel Transylvania series is fine, but it was actually really good. And I think Jennifer Aniston has a lot to do with that. They have really good chemistry together, surprisingly, and they're friends in real life. So that kind of translates well on screen. It was just fun. You've seen the movie before, it's familiar. It's not, doesn't do anything new, but it's like Murder on the Orient Express on a boat.
And I'm okay with that because I watched the trailer and my sister was in the living room with me and she was just like, "Oh yeah, we're watching that. We're 100% watching that." And I mean, because it looked like a lot of fun, and I think it's interesting that he's playing with the genre in this. Like, you get this really weird, like pulpy murder mystery with Adam Sandler as a detective. Like,
Right. And
I'm
there's kind of a joke about the detective thing in there too, and it just worked. And plus it's written by the guy who wrote Zodiac too, so it's
oh, okay.
yeah, not necessarily the same two people who are writing and directing all of his movies like Jack and Jill, which I wish we could all just collectively burn to the ground. Terrible movie. Although there's no such thing as an objectively good or bad movie. So shame on me for saying that. If you love Jack and Jill, I apologize.
I mean, I would kind of disagree with that. I think certain movies are objectively bad, like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Like, I'm sorry.
I've never watched that. I've wanted to watch his like reimagining series, but I have not done it. The last thing I saw Rob Zombie do was, House of a Thousand Corpses, of course. And I think we saw the newer one. Wasn't it called 33 or something like that?
I don't remember. After I watched Halloween 2, I just kind of ignored every other release he's done.
That's
Because
fair.
the first Halloween is actually a good movie for the most part, even though it does have his weaknesses in there, like constantly having the most white trash characters and just filling an entire character's dialogue with curse words.
Yeah.
Um, but
Hiring his wife.
yeah, that. And so the first one, even though despite its flaws, like it's still an enjoyable movie to watch. Like it's entertaining. And then you watch the second one, and from the moment it starts, you know you're in trouble because they completely retcon certain things from the first movie.
Mm.
And then suddenly, like he puts his wife back in it through like flashbacks, and then suddenly she's like, she'll show up every once in a while with like a white horse and like speak to him. And
What?
yeah, no, like it's straight like exposition. Like she'll just be like, "Kill for me" or whatever, some stupid thing like that.
Horror movie exposition lady number one.
Yeah, and then like at one point they basically tell you that Laurie Strode and Michael Myers have like a psychic connection to one another. Like there's one
Mm.
point, I can't remember, I think he kills like a dog or a deer or something. He kills like a wild animal and then he starts eating it and then she like throws up because she like can psychically sense that he's eating it, like stupid stuff.
What? Oh no, no, no,
Oh
no.
yeah.
I'm
No,
gonna
and no,
avoid
and
that.
at one point in the third act, Michael Myers talks.
No, no, no.
Yeah. No, it's bad.
I liked the new Halloween that came out last year. I thought that was really good, but it wasn't without its problems. But that just sounds not like anything I want to watch.
You know, I always tell people that's my least favorite movie of all time. I hate that movie.
I mean, I'll have to. I've got this sickness about me where if someone tells me they hate a movie, I kind of have to watch it just because I need to know if it's as bad as they say. And Jack and Jill was one of those instances. Kind of back to Adam Sandler, like someone said, "This is the worst movie I've ever seen," and we watched it. And I was like, "Yeah, that's pretty close."
I mean, I get curious as well, but I don't know. I don't know about Jack and Jill, and I can watch that for free too. That's on Sony Crackle for free, and I still I'm gonna pass that one up.
I know. Speaking of your worst movie ever, like the worst thing you've ever seen, I feel like, especially on quote film Twitter or, the cinephile community at large, there's this constant negging on a negativity, to use a, kind of silly phrase, but everybody at the end of the year when people are putting out their best of lists, people always kind of lambast the worst of lists. Like, why do we need to reflect upon the bad? Well, the way we look at it is we've already seen the movies. We've already reviewed the movies. We're just cataloging a list of the worst things we've seen that year. I don't necessarily see it as negative, but we always focus on what's the best movie you've ever seen? What are your favorite movies? I kind of want to know what people's worst, quote, worst favorite movies are. What's the worst movie you've ever seen? Or what's the best bad movie you've ever seen? Like The Room, cinematic poetry.
Okay, I'm kind of weird when it comes to The Room because I did watch it again recently when The Disaster Artist came out a couple weeks ago, and I honestly there are certain things in that movie that I'm like, you know what, you did some actually not terrible thing. Like I don't know, I'm at the point in my life where I can see some good things in a bad movie like that, and
Yeah.
I don't take as much pleasure as I used to in making fun of a bad movie because I feel like definitely like high school, college, I was like, oh, this is so bad, it's hilarious. But now I don't. That just doesn't interest me as much.
That's interesting. I wonder, is that just as you've matured as a person, or do you think it's because of your kind of need to see where things started as a person? Like, as you've formulated your opinion one way when you were younger, then over time, you think, well, okay, he didn't actually make this shot bad. I see the integrity in what he was trying to do. Like, he was very clearly going for something, and that counts for something. He was going for this, love triangle between Mark and Lisa and other dude. What's his name? Hi, Mark. Hi, Lisa. His name is escaping me at the moment, but
Tommy,
Tommy Wise. Yeah, yeah. Well, what Mark? My God, what's his name?
Johnny.
Johnny. Johnny. Thank you. It's like such an easy name. There was intent there, and that does count for something. I think you're right.
Yeah, because there's this one sequence, like I said, after watching it recently, that I really do like, where you can see that he did have some sort of vision where Johnny and Mark and Lisa are all in the same room with each other, but he films part of the scene only in close-ups of Mark and Lisa's eyes, staring at each other as if they're the only two people in the room. And I was like, he probably copied this from another movie, but this is actually smart filmmaking.
I don't actually know which scene that is. I mean, I could put it in the room right now and watch it and be, completely enthralled and entertained with it, and not necessarily in a making fun of it kind of way. I just think there is that kind of question. Is there any such thing as a guilty pleasure? If you like something, it's technically not a guilty pleasure. There's a lot of mincing of words there, but I really enjoy that movie for what it is. I'll have to go back and watch it and look for that scene and see what you're talking about. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, no, I can't remember. Somewhere in the middle of the movie, after they've like hooked up a couple times, like
After the fourth
Mark.
sex scene.
Yeah. Oh gosh, those are bad. But yeah,
They're bad.
like Mark comes over and they're just like in there, and there's that scene, and I remember watching it last time, and I'm thinking like, okay, that isn't terrible. You could tell he has some sort of vision, but he's just not talented enough in order to completely reach what's in his head.
Yeah, and I think he also overreached for a lot of stuff. Like, he just wanted too much. Like the filming with the dual cameras. Like, he had all this money at his disposal. I mean, you get in your head, you have things a certain way. He was kind of a taskmaster, it seems. Who knows what goes on in someone else's head?
I'm not sure. I want to watch his new movie though. I think it's out on Blu-ray already. That Best Friends one.
Oh yeah, and I think it came for like a special engagement in San Diego, but we didn't get to see it, so it would be worth checking out. I agree. Maybe he's gotten better over the years. Who knows?
Maybe. Okay, so I sadly have to say that we have to go. We have to cut a little short. I'm sorry.
It's been 20 minutes already.
Yeah, well, a little longer than that. I think it's been about 25. Yeah.
Oh wow. Like I said, I talk fast. I talk a lot. I
Yeah.
feel like we started one place and ended up a completely different place.
Which is fine. I mean, that's basically what the show is about.
I liked this. Was great. Thank you
Oh,
for having me.
yes, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I'm always shocked when I ask people to come on and talk to me and they want to.
Don't feel that way. I think, we kind of get in our own heads about am I doing this right, or should I have a series of questions to ask people? But really, I think having an honest conversation about stuff and going with the flow of things is so much more relaxing. Like when you said there's really nothing you have to prepare for, it's just a conversation between movie fans. Like I think that's great. I think that's awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So I would love to have you on again at some point, without technical difficulties, definitely.
I would love to come back. This was great. Thanks for
Okay.
having me.
No problem at all. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you later.
Bye.